everyone! Today I'm not going to be painting. I'm actually going to be answering a few questions. I was recently contacted by a student at the Savannah College of Art and Design, and he had a few questions regarding what it's like to be a professional illustrator. And so I thought I would be able to use my channel to answer these questions for him, so let's get to it. I live in Connecticut. I was born and raised here, and it's where I call home. I went to school up in Boston, and even though that is still New England, Connecticut is definitely where I want to be. It's close to all my family. A lot of my friends are still here, and it's very homey. And especially being between New York City and Boston, it's a great place to live. I was absolutely fascinated by art when I was a kid. I remember going to the comic shop at least once a week and looking at all the paperbacks on the wall, and at that time Magic the Gathering had just come out, and I remember just looking at all of the cards in the case and opening up packs with my older brother and just looking at the artwork on the cards and being fascinated, knowing that real people painted those images, and I instantly knew that's what I wanted to do. I went to the Massachusetts College of Art and Design, and I majored in illustration. I did the 4-year program, I got my bachelor's, and the most important part of college for me was the sense of community, because you don't really get that when you're a professional. It's very solitary, very hermetic. So while you're in the studio space, live it up. I was able to pick the brains of animators and graphic designers when I was in college, and I think I took it for granted because I truly miss it now that I'm in the professional world. So I would absolutely live it up as an art student while you still can. My medium of choice when I work is actually two. It's acrylic and oil. When I work into the background, I use strictly acrylics because I use a lot of graphic elements and abstraction in my pieces, and it's much easier to achieve the effects that I want with acrylics because it dries so fast. However, when I start to render the figure, that is when I use the oils, because I can't for the life of me render in acrylics. And if you can, kudos to you, because that's just not something I can do. The best advice I can give to a student is to have your own voice. I know it's going to take a long time for you to find your own style, but in the long run, it is not going to help you to emulate other artists, especially if their style is popular at the time, because they're just going to be hired anyway. What you need to do is find your own voice, find your own style, because in the end, that's the one thing that only you are going to be able to offer to the world, and that is what is going to draw people to you. If I were to travel anywhere in the world right now, I would go to Japan. I love the culture. The fashions are eccentric and unique, and the food is amazing, and the music and art and everything about their culture is so diverse and can't find it anywhere else. So if I were able to go to Japan tomorrow, I would jump at that chance. My favorite place to travel isn't very far. It's to New York City. It's a major hub for a lot of galleries and museums, and I don't really travel all that much. I haven't traveled very far, but it's always refreshing to go into New York and to see a show and just sort of recharge my brain in an artistic sense, to get myself super pumped to paint and work on a next project. My daily schedule is pretty much the same, regardless of whether it's a weekend or a weekday. I go to bed pretty late at about 4 or 5 in the morning, and I don't get up until about noon when I brew myself a whole pot of coffee. And while I finish that off, I check up on email and other correspondences and social media, make some posts, contact galleries, all that stuff. And I get started painting at about 6 o'clock in the evening and going through until about 2 in the morning. And of course, I take breaks in between because everyone has to eat, although sometimes I forget. But I love my schedule. It's very adaptable to me. A lot of my friends don't really appreciate that sometimes I can get so busy, but that's the wonderful thing about being a freelancer is you can set your own schedule and set your own hours. I find my inspiration everywhere, pretty much. On a daily basis, I'll just flip through Tumblr, Pinterest, and I mean, even if it's a picture of like a sunset or something, if a composition is really strong in an image, I think that's really what draws me to it the most because I like minimal compositions, but at the same time are very stark and strong. And I I love abstract expressionism. Surprisingly enough, I never really liked it, but then I ended up taking 4 straight semesters of it when I was in college, and I learned to love it, and I gathered a great appreciation for it. My favorite piece that I ever worked on was for the art order, and I have a postcard of it right here hanging up in my workspace. And this is the piece where I finally figured out what suited me best, where my voice was, where my style was taking me. And I always, to this day, 5 years later, get a lot of positive feedback for this piece specifically. When I work, I don't usually listen to music. I actually listen to podcasts. And the two that I'm really engaged in right now is the Rooster Teeth podcast, which is great if you love comedy and just people telling random stories. And the second one is Caustic Soda, which, if you have an interest in like bizarre news and bizarre science, that's a great podcast to listen to, especially while you paint. I don't really know the direction my work is going to take me in the future, but that's kind of the fun of it. I had no idea where I was going to be when I graduated. I had no idea what I wanted to do, but things just evolved and happened, and that's kind of the way I'm gonna remain, just letting things happen organically. I started this YouTube channel to share with the world what I do and how I do it, and who knows, maybe 10 years, I have no idea where I'll be, and that's the most exciting part about it, really. And that's it. I'd like to thank you for sending in these questions. If you have any more, or if anyone has any questions, don't be afraid to ask. I know art can be a very scary venture, but you're not alone, and I want to be able to help you guys out as much as I can, and thanks for watching.